I never hate my race, but until recently I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the bubbly, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it. But will generations down the line be able to sell it? I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my race just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they want to strip me down till there's nothing left. Old friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one, but I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family. But I am the one who's comfortable with myself. I try to save them from the hate so wildly raising hell. Cause I'm the black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. I heard that Scotland is too white, is Nigeria too black? Don't get your panties in a bunch, cause I have the right to ask. See, I'm the black sheep, cause I call it hypocrisy. And the media will give you emotions, but they will not give you honesty. Yeah, you have your feelings, but I have the crime rate. And I'ma shoot to kill if there's a danger my way. So I do not blame the cops, just the ones who are cowards, who hesitate to pull the trigger unless it is one of ours. Cause he's a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I put my people to death. safe. The white guilt in my heart is dying away, is dying away, is dying away. We are rolling in, going free. How's everybody doing tonight on this Wednesday night? Please let your friends know that we are live. We will be live for a little while. We'll pull the banner down since it's actually happening now. We're going to be live for a little while tonight. We'll talk about a few things. We'll watch a little bit of Tucker. Maybe look at this satellite footage that shows that all these fires, if this is true, if the satellite footage is true, all of the fires started at the exact same time in Canada that coated the east coast of the United States in that awful ash and smoke. Very interesting. We'll take a look at that. And then Trump, what's going on? We have some questions about Trump that I felt like we could maybe hop in here and have a little look at and talk about. I was, of course, on with David Clues, Unity News Network, just the other day. And you can head on over there on D Live and on Rumble. Please do make it an action item to head on over, probably to their Rumble, I guess. And you can leave comments on the thread there for folks who will be watching. There will be people who have never heard of the Go Free method. And we want to make sure that they hear good things from intelligent people, because otherwise they're going to hear bad things from very, very mediocre people. So very mediocre people indeed. Had me thinking quite a lot about their inquiries and their questions. And I mean, one of these days we're going to just have to lay the law down that, I mean, maybe we'll take a look at that over the course of this roll in. But let's see. Ultra Testosterone is here. Great to see you. And he's sharing with us. He says that Kessler left the white sympathetic sphere altogether. He's gone away, apparently. Is that right? I didn't know that. Did he give a reason? Did he shut down all his accounts? Angela is here. Great to see you, sister. Hello to you. The great Franklin, who exists in several realms of existence. And so he can be here and other places at the same time. It's a marvelous thing. Great to see you, dear champion and friend. Samuski is here. So many heroes. White Wolf is here. The great Mrs. Chess Horse. Hello, sister. Wonderful to have you. Elaine Sabatino, another powerful sister in our white well-being sisterhood, which we had. It's never happened before, ladies and gentlemen. It appears that this past Sunday we had more women in the live audience than men. That has never happened not even remotely close. Not even remotely close that there has ever been more women than men in the live chat of a stream. I mean, could you imagine going? It's just unfathomable. It's unfathomable. Going to a white sympathetic conference of any kind and finding 2%, 5% that are female present. In the best of scenarios, you might get close to 10%. And in some of these cases, these are not the best people. I mean, when you have ladies that have been in jail, everybody can be redeemed. But when the ladies who are showing up are, many of them have been to jail, prison even, then that's, it is what it is. But
when you have quality people, intelligent folks showing up, ordinary people who fit into normal society, and it's even more females than males, you have really landed upon something that can work. And I know that a lot of guys across the West would like to puff their chests out, especially when they have bird chests. They really like to puff them out. And when they don't have lat muscles, that's the big muscle under here. Well, on them, it's not there. They stick their arms out even more. And they walk around like this. Especially, it's like the bigger the belly, the more they do this with their arms. They're like, yeah, so muscular. No females are going to be. No, it's just all, doesn't matter what the women think. Really? And then it's just like his phone rings and he's like, I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. Let me just. So females dominate the West. They decide who's going to reproduce. They decide whose genes get passed on. Even in the best of times, that's the case, of course, because otherwise it's called rape. And so to win women, to win the spirit of women, to win that defense, that that you're speaking to the heart of a people. And that's where the family is born. That's where the family is made. That is what continues. That's why and perpetuates. That's why in the white sympathetic sphere, these organizations, they just come into being, and they're just like these ephemeral things. They just like flare into being, and then just fugaciously they're gone. Oh, there it went. Oh, there was another group is gone. another one is gone. Let's see. Hopefully they aren't tatted up and obese. Horrible optics. Yes, exactly. No, we don't. No, these are the folks here are good quality. Some folks come from rough backgrounds, and everybody can be redeemed. But yeah, we've got good folks here, good normal folks. It's like a Donald Trump event. The women come in here and they're just attractive, and they've got, in various ways, attractive in various ways. It's not like showing up at the Hell's Angels, the Hell's Demons. I guess that would be the female, maybe, version of the biker gang. Marlene is here. Great to see you, sister. Wonderful to have you. Fox is here. Invisible Dissident. Let's see. Summer Lee is here. Hello to you, sister, and welcome as well. The great, cool Papa J Magic. An individual working white magic like you wouldn't believe, since he has shown up. Great to see you, champ. St. Andrew is here. Why don't you be one of those people? I want you all. We're going to be getting into Tucker in a moment. Maybe I'll tell you about the door over my shoulder. We had Maximilian von Fock install it. But I want you to be, and this is what we do here. We write ourselves as the central character, the protagonist character in the story of our heroism, in our people's story. We've got blank pages, and we write ourselves in there as the heroes. We make every moment of our lives the kind of moments that an audience would want to watch, that an audience would be inspired by. Be one of those people. Be inspiring. Be a hero in service to white well-being. We are achieving magnificent, truly remarkable things by way of this method in service to white well-being, recapturing our destiny, so much so that all of our naysayers and gainsayers are now having to say, well, you didn't do it, after saying you can't do it. So they're now all saying you didn't do it. So we're just the only way to secure our position as those who did do it and who are doing is to keep doing it, if that makes sense. Let them continue to complain from the sidelines. If you ever been to a high school football game in the United States, I was a very big high school, very, very big high school, and massive stands, and it would fill with people. But then you also had like the shadows beyond, and that's where like the nasty, the dirty little filthy people would congregate in the shadows and the darkness around, and the police would have to keep a close eye on them. let them sit there and make pathetic observations while we get on the field with the pen in our hands about the kind of lives that we are going to lead. And it's truly remarkable, the things that we have here. People getting jobs that they would have never gotten, promotions and raises that they would have never gotten, that they attribute to going free, that they attribute to the method. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the white sympathetic sphere, not even in the implicit white sympathetic sphere. People who like are big Trump supporters, you don't hear them talking about, well, as soon as I started supporting Trump, I suddenly got a job, got a girlfriend, she's pregnant, we're getting married, got a promotion 2 days after I got the job. You know, you don't hear that happening even in the Trump circles, but you hear that happening here. You see people reclaiming relationships with family members. You see people reaching content creators with concepts that we are wielding, like white erasure, for example, that these content creators would have never listened to anything else they would have ever said. And somehow they're able to get the ears of content creators with 500,000, 1 million, 2 million subs. How is that? It's because we speak with concepts that we have preloaded, pre-programmed, prepared for delivery to our brothers and sisters, and for all those of goodwill in all races and religions to join us against this anti-whiteism that is destroying Western civilization for us and them. So be one of those heroes. I want to see you pin yourself in like Cool Papa J Magic. It's like every time I turn around, this guy's got another success. Franklin, every time I turn around, there's another huge success. Baron White, every time I turn around, there's another huge success. I wish, I would love to not have to do anything else in the world and to have an assistant, and I would have just the lists of the names of all the people that are doing magnificent things. And if you see somebody doing something magnificent, make sure you get it to me so that I can name them. There's nothing that brings me more joy, I can assure you, than to celebrate somebody who's going from here to there and who's rocking it. I love that. I love that more than anything. When I was in the service, we're not going to talk a lot about that right now, but when I was in the service, I was in charge of helping people with education, with their scores on tests they had to pass, and their physical goals. And I made sure that everyone made the grade, intellectually and physically. And that was one of the best feelings, to help others. You learn that when you get older, and you discover that, oh my God, it actually feels better to give a gift than to receive a gift. It actually feels better to do something for somebody who's genuinely in need than it is to have something done for you, as much as you appreciate that, or to receive a gift. I think every good adult realizes that. Many of the people who don't like us are not that way. They're not of that mind. And that's why they shouldn't be giving their opinions. I mean, imagine this. Ultra Testosterone's a really smart guy, and I can tell from his posts. And Ultra Testosterone, imagine people who have to take their cars to have a repair done on their vehicle. Now, if you're a mechanic, think about something else for the moment. So if you're a professional mechanic, you specialize in that, think about a different trade that you would need help with. Okay, an electrician perhaps, or maybe you're good at that as well. Somebody to fix the boat, the leaks in the boat, whatever it might be, something you can't do because you don't specialize in it. So imagine a person who has to take their automobile to a specialist who works on cars, deciding that you don't have to specialize in the recapture of the destiny of Western kind, that just anybody can give their opinion on that. Just anybody can endeavor to slander and slime somebody's reputation. Yours truly, who is one of the central figures in the Go Free method and achieving so much success, turning people's lives around, that you can just show up and you can just give your opinions. You don't need to specialize in this at all. I mean, could you imagine? They need a specialist to address the spark plug gap in their car but no specialist needed when it comes to the human dynamism, the infinitely complex human dynamism of society inflicted with a psychological warfare called anti-whiteism and the recapture of the destiny of the people victimized by that psychological warfare. No specialty needed there. Could you imagine that, ultra testosterone? That people could think this? And that's why we go the extra mile. We had the great Maximilian von Fock. If you don't know who he is, there's a playlist on my YouTube channel that I would like you to watch. Maximilian von Fock. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. And I said, you know what I need? I need a portal in my closet that leads directly to two places. It leads directly to the castle that Fourneaux lives in and the discordant dragon's dimension from which Yiz the Unifier operates every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on her channel. That is Yiz the Unifier, and if she's here, someone else could potentially share her channel and share the great Cornelius Nullen's channel would be great. I needed a portal, and that's what Maximilian von Fock did for me. And maybe one of these days we'll see, we'll unlock the door and they will swing wide, and Fourneaux himself will walk right through, right out of my closet, or I will step through these doors and I will walk right into his live stream. Who knows? But it is now accessible by way of the this portal in the closet. Let me see who else is here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. If you would like to financially gift today, I would deeply appreciate it. You may do so over at Entropy, which is up and running right now. You may do so financially gift over on DLive with their funny little cryptocurrency. You may do so on Odyssey, which I believe is up and running, either with their funny little cryptocurrency or with cash dollars is available over there on Odyssey, and it is up and running. Hello to everybody there. Or you may head on over to Cash App. All of this is in the URL below. You can head on over to knowwhyguilt.org. You can find links, and you will find all of these. The Cash App is off to my right, your left. You can financially gift there in cryptocurrency. I don't know which ones, but also in cash dollars. And I will read all of the financial gifts over the course of this roll-in going free. And of course, if you would like to get my attention, otherwise you can do like Ultra Testosterone has done, and you can just tag me as the @ No White Guilt. You may also try at Hot Motherfucker, but it won't turn orange for me, and I may not see it if you do that. You may also try at Lickable Jason, whatever, but I probably won't see that either. So just go with at No White Guilt. And of course, I say those names, those monikers, because I know how much the little jealous me-nots go crazy with rage. They go crazy with rage. Every time. If you're wondering what it is, kind of I don't know if it's actually visible right now. I can't see myself, but there's a little bit of a red spot on my cheek, somewhere in this area. That's where some stitches were removed recently. After a physician had to attend to a wound from a fight. And that's now sewn up. The stitches are out, except for the internal stitches are still there, and they will dissolve. And eventually it will be back to normal, and just another scar on yours truly. It is what it is, my friends. Who else is here? Fox gives a heart in the live chat. Robert is here. Promethean Healing, which is one of the coolest names ever, is here. He says, I like that arch you had built in your closet. Did you have to hire a contractor for that? It was Maximilian von Fock, my friend. He did a fantastic job. I don't know if you can tell. It's an actual door. It's an actual door. There is roughly about right there. There's a handle. And you head right through there. Kingdom of Vinland is with us. Promethean hails to you as well, my dear brother. World Conqueror is here. James is here. So many epic heroes making it. Oh, the great Fourneaux is here. Wonderful to see you, champion. Now you know. If I suddenly pop out of your castle, you know why. Parnell says, sweet. Kingdom of Inland says, in the service, you were in the military, I'm guessing. If so, what branch? I don't give the branch away readily because it will just make things easier on anti-whites. Samuski says, there's nothing that attracts people here and inspires them to do more than the celebration of success. Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. Rory Herbert is here. Wonderful to see you, good champion. Is that evil author? Hello and welcome. Daniel is here. Hello to you. Welcome, good sir. Invisible Dissident has joined us. The great Slots is with us, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful champion, Herculean champion in service to white well-being. We all know that scar is a ritual for the J Illuminati. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Don't even doubt that the little me-nots, the J-Spurgers, would not claim that. You know they absolutely would. It was part of a Illuminati ceremony. Space Hopper is here. It's just part of one of those Illuminati ceremonies where they stab your face. Let's start off with I'll read a success as we pull up Tucker in his baby face form. There he is. Cute little guy. Lavish, champion in service to white well-being, wrote this in the thread. Every live stream, I learn new things, Jason. I'm so glad I came across your channel. Everything you say makes a whole lot of sense to me. I've always been white sympathetic, and I have exposed myself to numerous reading materials and videos on the topic, the tragic replacement of Western kind, etc. However, some folks would discourage me just because she writes here that she's mixed and Muslim. I aim to promote white well-being and white positivity to anyone willing to listen with an open mind. I know a few other like-minded white advocate mixed people, and I have shared your channel with them. Thank you for what you do, with little praying hands. Well, thank you, sister. I really appreciate it. And I want you to note here, folks, how glorious this is at Lavish. Thank you so much for this testimonial, Lavish. It is really splendid. What's the difference here? Lavish is mixed race. She's part white and part non-white of some variety. She's also religiously a Muslim. When do non-white people and white people, and how do they come together outside of our white positive sphere, outside of our white positive environment? Note here that people of mixed race, non-white people, come to our white positive work of the Go Free method to advance white well-being against anti-whiteism for two main reasons. Number one, they're moral, and they think it is immoral and wrong to victimize a people, in this case, Western kind, immoral to victimize them on the basis of their birth. Number two, they can see that they are collaterally damaged. They are collateral damage. When whites are victimized, when the argument is retributive justice against white people, that non-white people or mixed race people can see they are harmed as well in the end. So they're able to come here identifying, acknowledging, and accepting the value of the white race, and then with us wage spiritual, intellectual conflict against the great evil of this age, anti-whiteism. Outside of our sphere, if you go to the implicit sphere, where like a Donald Trump type environment or conservative type environment, what happens there? Well, the non-white and mixed race people who show up there, particularly the non-white ones, particularly black non-white ones, if they share conservative viewpoints, they are treated paternalistically. They're given like this faux worship. The white people are so delighted to have them present in a sort of paternalistic, pat them on the head kind of a way, because these white people in those circles feel that those non-white people, those mixed race people, validate and legitimize the opinions held by those white, implicit white sympathetic folks. That doesn't sound like a place that I would want to be. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't want to be there either, in an environment where you're just like worshiping with this like faux worship these people. And it sounds like a very uncomfortable place to be for non-white people as well. Most of them, of course, not all of them. How about the explicit white sympathetics, the ones who are antags to one degree or another? How are they able to find common cause with mixed race and non-white people? Not on the basis of white well-being, not ever. I've been around doing this for almost 3 decades. The only way that they find common cause is hatred of Jewish people. That's how they come together. Not for the good, not for the well-being of white people. They come together to hate Jewish people, to badmouth and bellyache about Jewish people. That doesn't sound like a productive environment for white well-being, for putting an end to our victimization, does it? This is the only place that good people of all races can come together in love, hope, and redemption, as written by Lavish, demonstrating here beautifully. And we get these testimonials from these wonderful people that can come together, and together we can combat anti-whiteism. This is the kind of thing that can spread very quick. When you find the key, when you find the skeleton key that turns all the locks in the mansion, then you open the doors very quickly. And that's what we have here in service to white well-being. The skeleton key that undermines anti-whiteism. So let's go ahead and thank you very much for that. That's a great victory there that you just don't see elsewhere. Ecstasy is here. Okay. Ecstasy is here. That's what being with me is like, my friend. There are sometimes instances of white negatives and puppies united by both hating brown people. Yes, it's true what Franklin's pointing out there. And what he's talking about is you will sometimes have these instances where Jewish people that dislike other non-white people, blacks, Hispanics, Arabs, will find common cause. And it's brief, as you can see, because these sorts of alliances, or it's not an alliance, it's an agreement, because there's nothing there. There's no substance of things to align, right? I mean, how can you have an alliance when there's nothing there? So they will sometimes come together in an agreement of a hatred or dislike of another group. Again, this is what we refer to as white negativity, when you're ostensibly concerned with the well-being of white people, but your activism is to the detriment of non-white people, which confirms the anti-white narrative, and which is why normal white people in their dozens of millions, hundreds of millions won't participate. Because if they believe their well-being is only attainable by way of the ill-being of other people, they're not going to do it. And want to know how far they will go and not do that? Take a look at Rhodesia in South Africa. That's how far white people are willing to go to not harm other groups for our well-being. So you want to wait around until, I saw one comment, the guy's talking about, well, when this finally comes. Hey, buddy, I suggest you move to South Africa, because it's probably closer to finally coming there. And we'll see how long you last. All right. You also see this very bizarre phenomenon, very bizarre, where you have these non-white mixed race people, non-white and mixed race people, who are in actually the heads of what are Nazi LARPing groups or similar. They'll actually be the leadership, and it's like this open secret that the Nazi LARPers won't talk about, or the people who call themselves fascists, they will just ignore. They won't want to. They'll just say, "Oh, no, no, no," and then somehow, down deep, I think, and I think Franklin even brought this up once, that they feel like maybe they're a little safe because the head of their Nazi LARPing group is actually Jewish or half Jewish, or half mestizo or something like that. Maybe so. I don't know. But yeah, it's a bizarre thing. But you're not going to come together in hatred and accomplish anything. So this is it's a mighty victory that you really have to appreciate, that we have achieved here. A mighty victory. And it's been against the endless headwind of troublemakers and, of course, anti-whites. Let's see what Tucker had to say. We'll roll, and I'll keep an eye out for your tagging me, and any financial gifts.
The Biden administration arrested Donald Trump this afternoon. They had him arraigned and fingerprinted in a Miami courthouse like the accused felon he now technically is. These were the first steps in a process that is designed to put Donald Trump behind bars for the rest of his life.
Let me jump in and say that filing a charge like this, and I know you all realize that, doesn't mean, especially in America today, or in the West today, where there is no law and order. And I say that there is no law and order because the law is not equally applied to everyone. Therefore, there is no law. Therefore, it's just used to suppress certain groups and then to reward other groups. And you just see that everywhere. So when charges are filed, it doesn't mean that there is even a shred of evidence to support conviction. It actually could be lawfare, which is just meant to tie a person up, tie up their time, tie them up psychologically, emotionally, tie them up spiritually, tie them up financially. That's what lawfare is all about. And then, of course, here there is another consideration when it comes to filing charges, and that is that they want to so smear and slander Donald Trump with so many various charges that the public, that a percentage of the public will decide something's got to be true, and I don't want to vote for him then. Now, of course, I think that this is harming the efforts of those who would like to prevent him from being in office. But there's another element to it that perhaps they're weighing this against, and that is to distract from the obvious criminality of the Biden crime family and network. In my opinion, that's what it is.
Cable news carried every moment of it live. It's unprecedented, they told us, with what looked like shock. But they weren't shocked. They knew this was coming. Everyone who's paid attention knew it was. What just happened was always going to happen. It's been inevitable since February 16th, 2016. That's the day Donald Trump made a blood enemy of the largest and most powerful organization in human history, which would be the federal government. Despite what you may remember, it wasn't anything that Trump had said about immigration or trade with China or rapists from Mexico. Those are the stories that dominated the headlines that year. Trump's a racist, they screamed. Stop him. But inside Washington, that was just noise. None of it really rated. Identity politics doesn't mean much to permanent Washington. What matters, then and now, is foreign policy, the invasions and occupations and...
No, I disagree. I mean, this is... And we'll review more of Tucker's portions of Tucker video and these episodes that he's making on Twitter, because this is really going to become the sort of siren song of rebel conservatism in rebel republicanism in the United States. He's becoming this central figure for that on Twitter. And so the things that the places that he takes people are important to understand for those who are trying to recapture our destiny, We need to know what people are understanding and believing about the world around them. And that will be for a great percentage of conservatives, Republican voters, patriots, will be spelled out by Tucker Carlson and his followers as well, who will then double and triple his message. So we have to keep our eye on them, no matter how seductive it might be or fun it might be to want to talk about military industrial complex and what have you. This is just coming. It comes down to the ideology of anti-whiteism every single time. It's like I said in my roll-in short that what would cause the anti-white elites to pull down this new flag of anti-whiteism? Biggest mistake they've ever made is to allow there to be a conquering flag. Unbelievable. It just shows how dumb they are, but how dumb they've become. They were never this dumb in the past, but it's a good thing for us. But maybe I'll just keep going, and then we'll see if I can work this in with what he's talking about.
And proxy wars, the decisions that determine which global populations will thrive and which will die, the policies that come with trillion-dollar price tags, the ones that over time have made the counties around DC the richest suburbs in the world. In Washington, that's what actually matters. And it's obvious when you look carefully. When there's a debate about anything else, for example, the debt ceiling, both sides take their assigned positions and they start yelling. But when Congress decides to start a war, no matter how foolish or counterproductive or obviously disconnected from America's core interests that war may be, when that happens, the leaders of both parties automatically jump behind it like circus clowns.
The power holders, the anti-white oligarchs, are beneficiaries of global military escapades. And so there is the opportunity to erroneously conclude that it is these expeditions, these escapades that are the thing that matters. These are just opportunities to increase wealth and power, and in some cases to retard not necessarily opposition, because there isn't at least a how can I phrase, a salient and expressed opposition to anti-whiteism, but opposition nonetheless to the anti-white oligarchs who are clearly run the show. And that's where you get, if I could weave it back in, the answer to when would these oligarchs pull down this flag that they hung on the White House and that they replaced all of the national flags with at the year. When would they pull it down and wipe their asses with it? Well, they would do that the moment. Now, this is, of course, all theoretical because it's not going to happen, but you know this is the case. The moment that those individuals who support those varieties of flags, if they decided that they were going to be pro-Western, if they were going to love the United States and Canada and the UK, and they were going to no longer be an affront to the norms and customs and beliefs of the West, the mores, if they made that decision, those flags would come down overnight, and you know it. This is all about an attack on Western civilization, our expression. We need to keep your eye on the ball to understand this. You need to learn how to think as a member of a people, rather than this divorced or semi-divorced, selfish individualist who is just giving this intellectual appraisal or estimation or understanding or exploration of what's happening in the world. You no longer have the luxury of pretending that you are remote and that these outcomes won't affect you. You have to learn how to think like the member of a people. And it is so, I have so many emotions when I see white people struggle with this. I have sadness for them. I have disgust for them. I get upset. It's something that we clearly don't have a penchant for, and has also been eradicated by way of the anti-white narrative and anti-whiteism. So we have to focus on this with every conclusion we make, with every evaluation that we make of anything in the world. It is not more legitimate if it is generalized like conservatives do or remote. It is less legitimate. And only the people who won't make it through the bottleneck are going to continue to think that way.
And then they stay there, sometimes for decades. They defend that war relentlessly against all evidence until somebody finally rings the all clear bell and they can begin to admit that actually, maybe it wasn't such a great idea. We meant well, but it just didn't work out. The good news is we've learned a lot of important lessons. In the end, they usually do say something like that, but only after emotions have cooled and the damning details have begun to fade from collective memory. It's an apology that's not actually an apology, much less repentance, and it's years too late to matter in any case. But until then, that's all you're getting. Until then, no dissent is allowed. That's the first rule of Washington. But somehow Trump didn't bother to follow it. He is from out of town, so maybe he didn't know it was a rule. Or maybe he just didn't care. Either way, 7.5 years later, we can point to the precise moment that permanent Washington decided to send Donald Trump to prison. Here it is. It's from the Republican candidates debate in Greenville, South Carolina.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. They lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. We should never have been in Iraq, Trump said. We destabilized the Middle East. Now, by the time Trump said that, a lot of Republican primary voters were starting to reach the same conclusion. How could they not? But it was the next line that doomed Trump to today's arrest. They lied, he said. There were no weapons of mass destruction, and they knew there were none. Now, when he said that, a few in the crowd.
That's a really, that is spurious. Unquestionably, that would have played a role in aggravating oligarchs, anti-white oligarchs. But it's one of a great many reasons that's clearly calculated to be accessible to the midwittery. And so that's something that's interesting in and of itself.
Crowd booed. Most just sat there in silence, stunned. Can he say that? Well, he said it anyway. And by saying that, he sealed his fate. That was the one thing you were not allowed to say because it implicated too many people on both sides, which on this topic is really just one side. Hillary Clinton was guilty of it, but so was Paul Ryan. All of them were guilty. They all knew, they all lied. And to a person, they hated Donald Trump for exposing them. After that, it was pretty clear that even if he did get elected president, Trump was going to have a very hard time controlling the federal government he was supposed to be in charge of. Most of permanent Washington decided that Trump was the single most important.
That's not the reason. That is not. Trump was never going to have an easy time controlling. And we talked about that from before. What Tucker is doing here is he's coming in after the fact and he is writing this very simplistic narrative. It's like a children's story. It's like he's reading a book to children for bedtime, clearly designed for midwittery, and which is very easy to do because then you can go back and you can find where the darts hit the wall and then paint targets around them. We did that before. I told you exactly how Trump would be undermined. And once he got into, if he got into office, and I told you what he would have to do once in office to overcome that, and that therefore there would be these signs that we could look for to see if he was actually going to do those things to overcome the opposition that I clearly explained would be up against him. And all of that came to fruition. All of it played out exactly as I anticipated. All the way down to sheriffs and county judges giving the bird to the president of the United States and him not being able to do anything about it. That's what did it. And what motivated human beings? Were they all Jewish people? No. They were all human animals, whether you believe we have a soul or not, human animals motivated by an ideology called anti-whiteism. That's what we have to put the metaphorical crosshairs on. It is what motivates the animal to a behavior that we have to address, because that demon that dark magic is spread from one living animal to the next, and to the next, and to the next, and to the next. You would be on this endless merry-go-round, trying to chase down the people infected, the people who have anti-whiteism coming out of them. If you were just going after the people until you got down to no one, that's how it would end up happening. And really, this stems from this unspoken, this idea of it's a people, or it's a particular group. It's the Illuminati, they've got to go. It's the Trilateral Commission, they've got to go. It's the Jewish people, they got to go. It's the Jesuits, they got to go. This sort of thinking can only, and the deductions can only be made in the minds of people who have unconsciously accepted selfish individualism as the norm, because they know that in a selfish individualistic environment, any group of people acting in unison for their individual well-being by way of their group well-being will overcome these selfish individualists. They are not smart enough to realize that, but we are. You cannot live in a world of modern technology as selfish individualists anymore. The selfish individualism has to die. No selfish individualists will survive. Only groups will survive in a connected world. End of conversation. End of conversation. Because you can't have these quarantined environments where selfish individualists can just run around being selfish individualists. Why? Because at the first opportunity, selfish individualists will throw open the gates. If they can be rewarded by doing so to other groups of people, whether it's races or whether it's the Trilateral Commission or whatever it is. If you need a specialist to regap your spark plugs, you need a specialist to recapture the destiny of Western kind. And if you're not getting it, keep your opinion to yourself. If you couldn't go to your mechanic and tell him how to regap spark plugs when you know nothing about it, then shut the f up when it comes to this. All right? Let me ask you this. This is not for the people who are on Team White Wellbeing, because we've really been lucky here to bring in overly qualified folks, talented in various ways, high IQ'd people with massive talents in various areas of life. I'm very humbled by a great many of them, and different ages, boomers all the way down to very young, men, women, different strata of life. It's very impressive. It's a very impressive thing. So I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the others. I'm talking to those out there who so populate the white sympathetic sphere and think that their sciolist opinions, that they can just show up, they can have read whatever, and they can just, and suddenly their opinion is as valuable as anybody else's on this. I ask you this. Do you believe that it's possible in the white race, the body of the white race, for there to be white people with IQs far, far higher than your own? I mean, do you believe, especially all those people, like back from all those people who attacked me over there in Mark's chat, do you believe that there are people out there, white people, who have IQs infinitely higher than yours? Is that possible in the white race? Do you believe that? Well, I'm one of them, so shut the fuck up. Let's get back to the story.
Important mission in their lives. Everything depended on it. Many of them said so publicly, but others didn't say so publicly. In fact, the stealthier ones took another path. They ran toward Trump, not away from him. They sucked up to him. They ingratiated themselves with the man they intuitively understood was susceptible to flattery, which Trump is. And they did this in order to subvert his new administration from the inside. There were a number of these, and you could spot them immediately. They were flatterers. Invariably, the ones who flattered Trump the most hated him the most and disagreed the most strongly with his views. You saw them in the hallways of the White House and at press conferences. They were there slobbering over their boss with elaborate self-abasement, as if they were addressing a monarch or a god. It was a scene from the Ottoman court. It was filthy and decadent, and it was false. Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo, Lindsey Graham in the Congress. They all called Trump a visionary genius up until the moment he lost power. And then they unsheathed their real agenda, as always the neocon war agenda, and they piled on with maximum force. Here's Mike Pompeo, for example, on Fox News this morning.
President Trump had classified documents where he shouldn't have had them. And then when given the opportunity to return them, he chose not to do that for whatever reason. When somebody identifies that, you got to turn them in. And so that's inconsistent with protecting America's soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And if the allegations are true, some of these were pretty serious, important documents. And so that's wrong.
Yes, Franklin, both my parents are high IQ.
Future historians hoping to unlock the mysteries of late Empire Washington study that clip because it will reveal everything. That very same Mike Pompeo, the one who's sneering at Donald Trump on TV this morning, that guy served Donald Trump as both CIA director and as Secretary of State. Those are the two most powerful jobs in the federal government. And as he worked in those jobs, Pompeo promised, in fact, he swore to support the president's agenda. Why? Because that's the way a democracy works. You vote for a candidate in the belief that his appointees will carry out the policies that you voted for. It's not.
Why and how could this happen to Trump? Because there isn't an ideology, an oppositional ideology to anti-whiteism for Trump to be able to surround himself with ideologues. Sharing selfish individualist opinions about what should or should not be taught in school at grade 5 is not an insulation. It is not insurance against subversion. It is not insurance. The behavior of like a Pompeo or these people that Tucker is talking about now, making it sound like this children's story that they were from the beginning these like undercover subversives. And I'm not saying that none of them were, but you don't have to believe, and that doesn't have to actually be the case for selfish individualists to see a rising star and take advantage of it, and then a falling star and flee from it. We need a collectivist oppositional ideology. That's what and we have that by way of the Go Free method that can bring ideologues together in a way to combat the actual visible victimizer, which is anti-whiteism. A behavior that the moment anybody engages in it, whether it's by way of something they say or write or an action that they engage in, it's identifiable.
About the president, it's about you, the voter. But Pompeo didn't do that. He didn't even try to do that. In fact, he undermined Trump's often stated commitment to peace and non-intervention abroad at every turn. His every waking hour was devoted to fomenting war in some faraway foreign country or other. Iran, Syria, Russia, North Korea, the list goes on. But rather than telling Trump that he disagreed with his ideas, as a man would, Pompeo toadied up to Trump, a man he despised, in the oiliest, most over-the-top way imaginable. Ask anyone who worked in that White House at the time. Who was the appointee most likely to tell Donald Trump on a daily basis that he was handsome, virile, sleek, and powerful? Mike Pompeo. That will be the consensus answer. Those of us who saw firsthand Pompeo's relentless kowtowing will never forget it. It was indelibly repulsive. No one with self-respect could do something like that. But Mike Pompeo did it effortlessly, with relish and verve. Now, the same person is telling Fox News viewers that he fears for the safety of our military, our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, in the improved phrase, because Donald Trump took some classified documents home and didn't immediately return them to the National Archives? What a lie that is. Mike Pompeo knows that's a lie. He spent his entire life in Washington. Washington is a city where internal memos about Labor Day are classified because everything is classified. Your government has classified more than 1 billion federal documents, most of them boring and pointless and a danger to no one, and locked them away in secret where you can't see them because you may be an American citizen, but not really, and therefore...
Don't use this argument. The conservatives, it's amazing how conservative content creators can think of the worst possible arguments. Can you imagine somebody going out to work or to a stranger or with family and saying, trying to downplay top secret documents? Don't do that. Don't go out and say, well, these documents are, we classify these classified documents, there's nothing, everything's classified. No, that just sounds totally asinine.
Therefore, you don't have the necessary clearances to know what's going on. And by the way, none of this is done in order to make America safer any more than COVID restrictions were designed to keep you healthy. No, it's a caste system. That's the point. And you're the untouchable in this hierarchy. Mike Pompeo knows that. Everybody who works in Washington knows that. How many secret documents do you think Dick Cheney took home with him while he was running the Iraq War? How many did his wife read? She never had a clearance. We'll never know the answer because there is no chance Dick Cheney will ever be investigated or staffers will be told to wear wires in his presence. He'll never be indicted for this. Of course not. Dick Cheney is a neocon. Donald Trump is not. Dick Cheney supports war with Russia. Trump does not. That's the difference. The rest is just a distraction. The prosecution of Donald Trump is transparently.
No, 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 no. Oh my God. He has turned this prosecution of Trump totally away from anti-whites to a one event, just this war in Iraq. Absolutely not. Trump is being prosecuted, and anti-whites at every level are after him, and they don't need to have a central hive brain communicating it to all these different limbs, because Trump gets in the way of anti-whiteism. A little bit here, a little bit more there. He gets in the way. He gets in the way without even wanting to. He gets in the way without really ever saying it, that he's trying to get in the way. He's not naming it as the problem that is destroying the West. Let me tell you what, if you wanted to see the full fury, and Trump knows this, that's why I can tell you confidently right now that it's not about the Iraq war, because Trump knew he could talk about the Iraq war. If Trump wanted to get right in the middle of all of the money, all of the energy, all of the hatred that could possibly be leveled at him, he starts talking about anti-whiteism and how that has to be defeated. He knows that. He spoke about Iraq because he could. And instead, Tucker is trying to make this out to be, this is the one thing. This is the main reason. A bedtime story for midget wittery. Sam says, I noticed there are plenty of high IQ people here, all of whom have a certain degree of humorous self-denigration and humility. Could be a sign of a higher IQ, maybe. Yes. Yeah, dumb people or midwit people are very aggressive when their intellect is challenged. They come out swinging right away because they are painfully aware of their limitation, and they know they don't have a strength elsewhere. So, yeah, being able to make fun of yourself and joke in that respect, self-denigration, that can often be a sign that the person is confident about their capabilities in one way or another. But can you believe this? We're going to be getting onto the satellite footage of these fires. You're not going to believe it. If it's real, this was terrorism. If it's real, in my opinion, it's terrorism, and nothing is being said, as far as I know.
Political. He's literally Joe Biden's main political opponent. He's polling over 60% among Republican voters right now. So Joe Biden is doing what no president has ever dared to do. He's using law enforcement to lock up his chief rival. That's happening right now. Anyone who denies it's happening is lying to you. But actually, it's worse than that. Trump's prosecution isn't just political, it's ideological. Nobody with Trump's views is allowed to have power in this country. Criticize our wars and you're disqualified. If you keep it up, we'll send you to prison. That's the message Washington is sending.
No.
The Democratic.
No. God damn it. I'm sorry, folks. I don't mean to yell like that. I'm sorry. Criticize the wars in there. No, get in the way of anti-whiteism, Tucker. You know this. You know it. Get in the way of anti-whiteism and they destroy you. Get in the way of anti-white. Let me ask you something. If a black conservative says something negative about going to war in Iraq or anywhere else, do they lose their family, lose their job, lose their etc., have their character assassinated as white supremacists and etc.? No. These social lynchings happen from all the way down to people working as janitors and all the way up to people being president. So knock it off with this red herring. Knock it off with this distraction garbage.
Party is sending, but both parties are sending.
I don't think he's, and I'm not suggesting, by the way, that he's doing it intentionally. I think it's a line of argumentation that he thinks will appeal to midwittery and midgetwittery, and thereby engender their cumulative wrath in favor of said cause. That's probably what's going through his head, because he's obviously a really smart guy.
Like so many Republicans, for example, the supposedly conservative governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, spent yesterday totally ignoring the destruction of the American justice system. Instead, he signed a highly important bill called the Crown Act, which, according to the celebratory tweet Abbott sent commemorating it, will, quote, prohibit discrimination based on textures and hairstyles historically associated with race. In other words, in Texas, cornrows are now protected by law. Having unapproved views about Ukraine is not. That's fine with most elected Republicans. They find Trump tiresome and embarrassing. Their donors hate.
So it's a race thing, huh? And what's the race element of it? The attack on Western kind.
Hate him. They will not be sad if he dies in jail. But what about voters? What are they learning from this spectacle? Well, mostly they're learning that they have no power at all because nobody cares about them. But they already knew that. Unlike so many of our elected leaders, they have been to America recently. They know what it looks like. Have you seen?
Miss Jess Horse says, I'm convinced every time I listen to NWG, my IQ shoots up. and she added some diamonds. It does. It absolutely does.
Seen it? If you've got a few days this summer, find out. Take a road trip and see for yourself. Drive 500 miles in any direction and then come home. How are things looking? Well, they should look great. The federal government spent $6.5 trillion last year. That's more than any government has ever spent, ever. So at the very least, you would expect pristine public roads. Oh, no. That's not what you see when you drive around this country. There are potholes and Jersey barriers everywhere. Looks like Tegucigalpa before the Chinese decided to rebuild the infrastructure of Honduras. We don't have China buying our roads. So they're falling apart. You'd think the people you would pass on your road trip would look happy and prosperous. Again, this is a very rich country. But a lot of them don't. Quite a few appear to be strung out on drugs. You see them shuffling by shuttered storefronts in small towns. And you wonder, as you see all of this, where did all the money go? It's certainly not here. Well, it's in Washington. It's in Fairfax and Loudoun counties and in...
Bro.
leafy, perfectly manicured Northwest DC. And of course, a huge chunk of it went to Ukraine, to Zelensky and his friends. Not because you voted for that. You didn't vote to give it to them. You never would. But because Joe Biden and his many allies, from Chuck Schumer to Mitch McConnell.
Fernald just dropped the game, the WesternKindGames.com that he made in the live chat. I want everybody to click on it, save the URL, save the tab, and then go back and play that game when we wrap up here today. It's fantastic. It's epic. A shit ton of work went into it to make it happen. And we need to be supporting each other and thanking Fernald for that hard work. And look, the great Reptile is here as well. Great to see you, champion. Another hero in service. Brilliant hero. Man, and make things out of thin air. Glorious. Great to see you. Mark in the live chat says, a good day all. And what's up, champ, at No White Gill? Well, I'm feeling epic as always, man. It's another glorious day in service to white well-being. We're breaking this down so that we are empowered with what is being communicated to the rebel conservatives, the rebel Republicans. This is going to be their soothsayer. It'll be the lines of argumentation that they will take into their lives. And so we need to understand where they're coming from so that we can speak to them. because it's going to be their energy that swells up as the campaigns rev up, that we have to reach. We have to get to these people with as many of the concepts from the Go Free method as we can. And for as many as we can, make them well aware of who we are. And then a percentage of them, as many as we can, get them engaged in the practice of going free. And that, by way of that, populating all of the office spaces, all of the living rooms, all of the factories, all of the cubicles, by populating those areas with the concepts from our story, white people and non-white people who are sympathetic to what's happening to us and worried themselves about being collateral damage will, the vast majority of them, without ever knowing who we are, that we lived, be able to come to conclusions that we have envisioned for them that will benefit all of us who want to put an end to anti-whiteism. How could you follow anybody else? I mean, seriously, how could you follow any other method? It's stupefying. It is really stupefying. I mean, just, I am the only normal content creator that's like really out there that doesn't have some kind of weird shit. I mean, I'm not far from perfect. I'm far from perfect. But it's like go back in school, in your memory to school, and you had people who were decent folks and they were doing their best to achieve, and they were somewhere up in like the top area of achievement, but they were still cool with everybody. And that's where you want to be. The vast majority of these content creators, organization leaders, they were like the cranks that you wouldn't have anything to do with, that you would like made fun of. And now these people, they get audiences. And they make arguments like this absolute winner over here that said, and this is the typical argument, his name includes the word Klan. And he says, Jason is a Fed, and then the name of a derogatory name for Jewish people. Well, what a smart argument. Your IQ is probably 70. You are on the left side of the bell curve. You should let other people think, and you just do what you're told. Like, push the broom some more, or whatever it is. Maybe you probably don't even work for a living. At least work is honorable, no matter what it is. You probably just live on handouts and then show up on the internet to make such scintillating, profound arguments. Franklin said a certain guy looked kind of dweeby in high school. Yeah, I bet. You know, the guy was like a mouth breather, and it was like, and he's got like he's like in high school, but he's already got like looking like he's pregnant going on. And he's got like the patches of beard. Let's continue.
McConnell, to Paul Ryan, and every single news anchor on all of television, all of them believe that Ukraine, its borders, its future, its infrastructure are all more important than the town that you live in. They sincerely think that, and it's obvious. Everyone in power thinks that, except for Donald Trump. Whatever else you say about him, Trump is the one guy with an actual shot at becoming president who dissents from Washington's long-standing pointless war agenda. And for that one fact, they're trying to take Trump out before you can vote for him. And that should upset you more than anything that's happened in American politics in your lifetime. Even if you don't plan to vote for Donald Trump, even if you would die before voting for Donald Trump, which is your right, and a lot of good people feel that way, even still, the destruction of our democracy, which is the right of voters to support any candidate they want, even candidates who don't want war with Russia, the destruction of that should keep you up at night. Yes, Donald Trump is a flawed man, but his sins are minor compared to those of his persecutors. In this life, we don't get to choose our martyrs. We can only choose our principles, and America's are at stake.
Okay. We're not voting for Trump because of what he'll be able to do while in office. We support Trump because of what he engenders in the hearts of white people and sympathetic, good non-white people. That's why we support Trump. He'll go into office, and just like I said before the first time he went into office, if he doesn't take immediate control, the way I outlined before, of all things, and it will have to be extra legal the way that the anti-white Democrats do. If he doesn't do it, then it'll be like the first term. We have to make more ground up during the second term. We can't allow it to flounder like it did. So let's get on to, I'll take a look at the financial gifts, and we will pull up. If Fresno walks through that door, he's got to find it first in his house. It won't look like this in his house. It won't look like the way it does here. It's going to look like a mirror on the wall, or it's going to be the door to a closet or the garage door. It's going to be something weird. Somewhere, maybe it'll be down in the bowels of his castle, and then it will look like that. We'll pull this up now because this is some weird stuff. Let's see, is the video with this? Yeah. Weird. Take a look at real quickly, and I'll look at the financial gifts. Look at these photographs. Now, this guy will play this, but all of these that you can see my cursor? Those are smoke plumes starting simultaneously, according to, if this video is correct, if it's not faked, whatever, you got to be careful on the internet. You don't want to burn your reputation on something that ends up being fake, right? This is most curious. Satellite imagery from college shows over a dozen fires in Quebec start up at almost the exact same time and at great distances apart. So logic would say that a fire can get started somewhere and embers could float for some great distance. But when they land, they would have to get started and get burning to create their giant smoke plume. So you have it. That's the thing that got my attention. So let's see. Over here on Cash App, get out your raucous emojis, ladies and gentlemen. Get out some gems to throw at her feet and crowns for her head. Raucous emojis, some 07s, some 95s. For one of our dear sisters, Angela, financially gifting tonight a whopping testimonial of $50. Let's put an end to anti-whiteism dollars. $50. Let's put an end to anti-whiteism dollars. God bless you so very much, Angela. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you. Let me see if I can find. It's always hard for me to find. I want to also throw. Okay, I'll do these. How about this? Fireworks. There we go. I know Franklin's probably going to find some animals to throw in. Cool Papa J Magic is there with the cowboy hat. Angela's an Angel right. Slots is there with the 07. Some trumpets there. Papa Magic. Thank you all so much. 07s, 007s, $50. That's no small sum. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Keep them going. Keep your raucous emojis going. Ladies and gentlemen, for the great, always returning Maki, financially gifting $25. 07s, raucous emojis, ladies and gentlemen, on this hump day. Does anybody remember that commercial? What was that? Like a Geico commercial where the camel was walking through the office and he's like, it's hump day. He loved it. Hump day, $25 White well-being dollars. Thank you. And writes here, I'm white and they make me feel and they make me feel superior. I assume you're talking about anti-whites. I'm white and they make me feel superior. Or the midwits out there that who are attacking us all the time. It's hard to not feel like when you have characters like this one over here, and they make those really like insightful, profound arguments of Fed. Oh God. Thank you so much, Maki. And I thank you to everybody. There's Space Hopper. There's Irish Nick is here tonight. Great to see you, good sir. What is that? Mutilating Blast? That's an interesting name. Great to see you. Mutilating Blast says, let's go. Amen to that. Watch Mutilating Blast is something like, don't make fun of my screen name. I got that after I stepped on a landmine. Be like, whoa, man, that's kind of like not healthy to carry that with you for the rest of your life. I get it. Mutilating Blast. Thank you, man. Great thank you for sharing. It's great when we celebrate. There's Franklin with, what are those, dragons? James says, hi, IQ Angel. Amen. Is it supposed to be Angela? Did I misread? Roger is here. It's amazing. The good folks here, you realize, and those who are sort of more, transitory, they kind of coming to go, they know that how amazing this community is, because they can look at the number of doers. And I mean, it's like looking at professional American football, for example. How many players are there actually on a team? They play the whole game. The stands are full of thousands and thousands that don't do shit. Right? So having, and it's like special forces, if I say so myself, and I do. It's like special forces. They're specially trained. They can get the job done. They don't need as many people. That's what we have here. This is the advanced placement. That's why, I mean, I was thinking again, I was on with David Clue's Unity News Network. Remember, that's our action item. When we're done and after we played for Null's epic game, that we head over there on Rumble and leave a comment for those who will show up and see later, so that they hear something positive about the Go Free method and the successes that we have. So that's an action item. But he asked a question. He's like, I don't want to get too much into it. And so good for him. But about who is behind this. And just briefly to say that when you actually begin to explain, it's painful for me. It's actually painful. When you actually begin to explain how, let me rephrase, the complexity, the plexiform of means by which we go from where we were to where we are and how it's getting worse. And then therefore how also, I should say not therefore, but then also how to correct that situation. It's painful to watch folks where they hit the ceiling of their processing ability. Because you can see it on their faces. They're like, okay, yep, I get that. And then they're like, it's just like, they're out of it. They're gone. They no longer can fit the pieces together in their head. And then it just seems like this just wildly disconnected thoughts and things that are being said. And then they're like, I'm confused. And so therefore it doesn't make sense. Can't make sense to anybody else because I'm confused. And so therefore I'm going to try to assess what would be the reason why somebody would just be talking all this confusion. When no, it's not confusion. It's just confusion for you. And that's just the way nature made you. Where you go wrong, though, is when you then decide that since you're confused and don't get it, that you are going to give erroneous motivations to slander me and this community. It's like one individual said, and I'm not going to say his name, but he was talking about these things in a show. This was months back. And he said, if you're not hating Jewish people and you're not belly aching about them, then you don't have a dog in the fight. Now, this is somebody who pretentiously presents himself as this intellectual. And maybe he does have a higher education than some, but that doesn't always mean a higher processing ability. Dog in the fight. The dog in the fight is my love for Western kind and the desire to end its victimization. He is admitting that his dog in the fight is the victimization of Jewish people. Those are two completely different things. Let me continue. So big thank you to those two champions. Azazamuth Clark here. Great to see you. Let's go ahead and get into this. Well, I'll check over here. Oh, owning anti-white goblins. That's a pretty cool name. It says doing the FAFSA, doing it for college. I thought that was a military test. Do I got that wrong? Do I got them screwed up? No, that's right. It is federal. Student aid. Okay, so you're filling out. Oh, my neck. You're filling out the application, and it asked if you were a transformer. Really? Peter is here. Great to see you. It makes me wonder, and I don't know, Forno, what are your thoughts? It makes me wonder, anybody in the, do you just, when you come upon these people who they just can't process the complexity, and do you just say to them, you can't get it? If you can't get it, then you can't get it. So I can't explain it to you. It's not within your ability to understand. You can be like autodidactic. You can autodidactically study and empower yourself educationally far more than you can while at university. The only time that that's not true is when you also need facilities, equipment, and things to do the tasks that you would have to do in the trade, whatever it might be, right? All right. Let's see about this. Look at that haze. Apocalyptic haze engulfs New York City. As Canadian, how should you read that for like a movie or something? The apocalyptic haze has engulfed New York City as Canadian wildfires push air quality to unprecedented levels. Zombies climb out of windows, making it the world's most polluted city. It was already the world's most polluted city from anti-whiteism. Okay, so he says, yes, owing anti-white goblins. It did not ask that on the FAFSA application the last time he applied. Oh, looks like we lost our Rumble feed for some reason. All of these alternative platforms. Garbage. Yeah, so he says anti-whiteism is advancing rapidly. Yeah, it is. And it will advance quicker and quicker. That's why we have to spread the lexicon that combats it. The people who should live with the most deathless shame for all time are those who have combated us and slandered us and attempted to undermine us in order to stick with this J-spurging subversiveness and gatekeeping that has not only not helped white people, but harmed white people again and again and again on a personal level, on a societal level, again and again and again, and has never done anything to harm, thank God, Jewish people. All right. Let's see this video.
Look up here in the upper right-hand corner. Watch this throughout the day today. A giant outbreak of fires has taken place across a whole Canadian province all at once. Look,
right there, look.
Up to the northeast, up here in Quebec.
Up there.
All of Quebec just caught on fire all at once.
Well, what he means is not the entire province, but that whole bottom portion of it, which is significant.
On a clear day, I would say this would be some kind of terrorism of some kind or an attack. Here it is. Here we are.
All right, so it looks like, where's the U.S.? It looks like this is probably the area, if you can see my cursor, of Quebec, because this looks like one of the Great Lakes right there.
We are. I'm going to let the images load. You can see this morning. It's clear. Just partly cloudy skies.
What do you all think about this? I mean, when you see this happen all at once,
nothing really crazy going on there. And then, well,
I'm just gonna.
There's last night.
Nothing yet. What's that right there?
Here's.
Oh my God, look. All the way up here, there, 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 there. If this is real, how is this not news?
Today.
There, there, maybe there.
Hey.
There. Holy, I mean, look at this. Now, granted, I am not a fire jumper, and I haven't studied wildfires, but I imagine that numerous different places, I mean, just using reason and logic, all scattered like this. I mean, we're not talking about like over a national park, even, or a state park. These are colossal distances.
All of southeast Quebec just caught on fire, guys. All.
Look at that. Some doesn't look right to me. Space Hoppers here, great to see you. Now, is this some sort of a I don't know, practice run for the election coming up? Is this going to be some sort of a practice run when, okay, here's the day to vote, when all these white people are going to go out and vote, and instead of all of these vote at home, vote away, vote all of these other things, right? Collecting the ballots. But all the white people are supposed to go vote. Are we going to see fires erupt from parts of Canada and the US that will make, especially for older people, it very difficult to get out and breathe the air? I mean, could you imagine if it was election day and New York and all these places, especially states that Trump really needs to win? Could you imagine if they're on fire and it's orange like that everywhere? Air quality is the worst it's ever been everywhere. Robert Hartley is here. Said aliens. The aliens did it.
All of it. Insane. Insane. Look at that.
Yeah, it just pops up all over. The
whole thing.
And that is colossal distances. This is one side of Quebec, and right there is the other. Is
all at once.
Talking about that? I don't know. Anyhow, what are your thoughts? What do you think about this? We have one other thing to look at quickly. Over here on Entropy, we have 2 financial gifts on Entropy. The first is from Mike, who gives us an 07 with a $5 financial gift. God bless you, Mike. Thank you so very much for that. I appreciate it. The other is our dear, just enormously generous, princessly generous, the Mrs. Jess Horst, with 3 little white heart emojis, financially gifting $20. So let's get her some Raucous emojis, some 07s. She reached the $20 minimum for our celebration for the lady. God bless you so much. Thank you so much, really, dear sister. I deeply, deeply appreciate everything you do in service to white well-being. Wonderful family, wonderful woman. And thank you all for celebrating the great Mrs. Jess Horst. There we got Irish Nick. He's broken out the 3-leaf clovers that would be 4-leaf clovers if they would have those. So it's the next closest thing. I do have, oh look, there I am on Twitter. Damn, looking pretty good. I did want to mention, as we are getting ready to pull up this tweet I had. If you didn't see it, it was 19 hours ago. And I have a picture there that you can check it out on Twitter. If you haven't shared it, please do. At the top, I write in quotes, "The anti-white beast will gather itself from the darkness in pomp and flair, and its music will seem to trumpets and cello, but are the cries and moans of its victims. No one alive today was born in America. This is my opinion, of course. The United States was conquered by anti-whites before we were born. The indignities traditional Americans of all races suffer are the indignities of a subjugated people. Raising a conquering flag over the stars and stripes has been a long time coming. The central flag represents opposition to a number of fundamental norms of Western civilization, and, more specifically, it excludes only white, Western normative people. It is, in my mind, on one level, I feel like this, it's weird. It's this, like, almost like a dawning, like it's, there they are. They're like, here's the flag, and it is everything against you. biologically and all that you have projected into the world. And we have now planted this flag on the house of your leader. And we have given it the central, prominent, authoritative position over the flag of your country. And that was the thing that anti-whites did that was so smart in the past. It was a usurpation. It was a silent revolution. It was this psychological coup that no one was able to push back against until now, because no one had seen anything like this before. No one had seen psychological warfare like this before. And part of the great victory or in deviousness, sort of like the devil's brilliance, was to not march in with a flag, to not march in with uniformed troops, and instead occupy the body like a demon occupies a body, and then control it to do your will. It was truly maniacal. And as I say, the sort of like the brilliance of the devil. But these people are not supernatural. They're mortal beings just like us. And as their ideology has become populated, as their ideologues have increasingly become lower and lower IQ, and simultaneously the lure of the successes, the incremental successes that have filled them with this hubris that's like a drunkenness, they have stumbled into a flag. And so simultaneously, while it's there's almost like this sadness, simultaneously, it's almost like there is, for me, like this ambivalence. There's part of me that's happy, that's glad that they've put a flag on it, that they've given it a symbol. It won't be the only symbol. There will be more, and this one might even morph some more as well. But the fact that they've moved to the point of the symbology to say, here we are, the force against you, Western kind, the force against the West, the force against the non-white people who stand with Western kind. The more they do that, the more they put a face on it, potentially the easier it gets for us to rouse this confusion. It's not, people have so long, they've looked at it for a long time. And I remember back in the day, there were certain words that I just saw in the literature in the white sympathetic sphere repeated all the time, that people were like apathetic, that they were just like, oh, well, apathy was not the big problem. It was the selfish individualism that was encouraged in the defense of that which was attacked, and the inability to identify what you had to strike out against. And we saw at the beginning of this roll-in, Tucker telling you that what you have to strike out against, the problem, the attacker, are those who want foreign wars. It's not those who want foreign wars that keep you from speaking, that debank you, that shut you down at every university when you try to speak up, that pull you before these anti-white tribunals. That it's not the ones who want foreign wars that ostracize you from your family. No, it's this demonic ideology of anti-whiteism that has gained foothold in the heads of all of these people. And then it is those eviscerated, manipulated, sick people who then roll out the conquering flag. And I made this point also when it came to this, and I think a lot of people are missing it. I've looked different places and I hadn't seen people talking about it. And that is that you had this biological male who went out there on the lawn and took his shirt off to expose his simulated breasts. It's the silicone packs under the skin, under the muscle. And then said that when people didn't object to him when he took his shirt off as a male, but now they object to him taking his shirt off as a female, which proves that he's a female. And I've seen in so many places people saying, well, no, it's just the decorum of the White House lawn. You don't take your clothing off on the White House lawn. That's true. Where does that decorum come from? What's under attack when that decorum is under attack? The norms and mores of Western kind, Western civilization. That's what's under attack. That's what they are attacking. But that's only half of it. The other half is that when society objects to a thing, a woman walking around topless, and like I said in my short, if aliens came in to Earth and they put on human costumes, and you could tell that they were costumes, and one's male and one's female, and they start copulating, we object to public sex. So we also object to the simulation of public sex. We object to a woman walking around exposing her breast, where in polite society that should not be happening. And so therefore we object to the simulation of breasts where that should not be happening. I'm inclined to think I made that comment on Twitter yesterday, and shadow banned as I am over there, Elon Musk, it's not doing very much. I'm inclined to think that if you could name almost anybody else, if they were to make that comment, it would have had 10,000 times, 20,000 times more views. But let's get over to this really quickly. I know it's not working. Fine. And we'll wrap up. I'll check what you all are saying and see if there are any other financial gifts. And any financial gifts that I missed on Sunday that came in late, I am saving for reading next Sunday. So if you financially gifted late, I will read it next Sunday, if you did it this past Sunday, and celebrate you at the beginning of the gathering. So be there, or I'll come looking for you. Let me make sure there's nobody over here. All right, I don't think there's any financial gift there on New Financial Gift, and none over on DLive or Odyssey. So we're good there. Didn't miss anybody. All right, let's take a quick look at this. And Sloth says, you did a good job with that alien analogy, no pun intended. Thank you, my friend. I think he shouldn't call his site Wide Awake. It should be narrow and comatose, so he's not called woke. Was that the one we were just on? Yeah, so true. Ghost Pirate says, how is this not news? No white guilt. Ooh, ha, ha, ha. Who owns the media? Forgot. I'm talking about our like alternative. But then you go on to say that we don't quote, we don't name them on this all caps channel. Let me point something out to you. If it benefited the group success strategy to share that information, Would they share it? Yes. They would share it. Complaining about somebody's success strategy does not yield you and your people a success strategy. It just makes you a bellyacher. And bitching about things in the West has never been looked at with respect. So when I look at other groups of people and I see how they work together for the benefit of the individual by way of the benefit of the group, I think we can do that too. I don't think to myself, I'm just going to complain for the rest of my life. You know, I've heard these people, and I can't understand for folks out there, and I don't know if this is Ghost Pirate, if this is like his position or not, but how many years can you actually listen to the bitching about this group of people or that group of people before you're finally like, I've had enough of this? How many years? How many years? How sort of thick do you have to be? How many times do you have to hear the exact same again and again and again? And then sharing it and accomplishing nothing, doing nothing. It's just like, this is your crutch. Maybe that's the problem, is that these people, they want a crutch to blame for their inability to change their environment. So they just say, this is what the environment is. I can't change it. I don't want to exert the effort to change it. I don't want to submit to those who have figured out how to change it. So I'll just complain. And that's fine. If you want to have a crutch, to excuse how much you dislike the environment and your admission that you are powerless to do anything about it. Maybe it's your intelligence, maybe it's your money, maybe it's you're lazy, maybe whatever it is, you just want a crutch. Well, then that's fine, but you have to do that away from people who are successfully changing things, right? You have to say, okay, they're successfully changing. Don't worry about us taking away your crutch. You know, just, you'll have plenty of time and plenty of circles you can all get together and just bellyache and just bitch about other groups of people all you want and blame them for everything. And then you have a good excuse to not be able to change your environment. Okay. Does it feel better now? Do you feel better? You can't do anything because these baddies are out there. These baddies are out there. And so it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not being lazy. It's not being dumb. It's not being criminal. It's not being all of these different things. It's just the baddies are doing it to you. Oh, they control the media. They could, you know how many times I heard, Fernald, where are you? I know Fernald will get fed up quick with this kind of, how many times, you know how many times I've heard they control the media? And you know what I've said? Finally, I've been at meetings, because remember, I was participating long before the internet was robust enough to carry all this traffic. And I finally said, I was at meetings where I was finally like, okay, so what do we do now? Okay. How many times do I got to hear you can say, well, they control the media? Oh, fuck. Enough. All right. Enough. Now what do we do? Oh my God. Why are people so cavalier in revealing that they're losers? Do they have no idea that when you just keep giving an excuse for being a loser, you're just like admitting to everybody around you that you are a loser and you can't do anything about it? And you don't want to do anything about it. You don't want to try to do anything about it. Jesus. They own the, well, they own the banks. Okay. I've heard that now 10,000 times. Now let's do something to end our victimization. Okay, motherfuckers. Okay. Can we do that now? I don't need to hear again that this group or that family or whatever owns the bank. Good. Good. Got the lay of the land now. Now let's do something. Well, they pay off the politicians. How many times can you hear this? I just don't know. I just don't even know. I can't know. It's so crazy. It is so crazy. It's like meeting after meeting after chat group after chat group. The same shit said over and over and over again. You're not even saying anything new. You're not even, we're going to have a speaker. He's going to tell us a lot this time. We just really got, this one's got some good study under his belt. Really? Yeah, he's going to really break it down for us. Let me tell you, it's the exact same shit as last time. But don't you want to do anything to like put an end to the victimization? Don't you want to do that? No. Then like this little guy that has like all these sexually confused people that follow him, and they're all like same thing. And then so many of these other ones, they show up and they're like, well, we have to mention that they are, whatever race they want to mention or whatever people they belong to. Got to mention it again. Really? Do you really have to? Do you really? Because I had it by like the second time it was mentioned 3 decades ago. I mean, that's I got it. Let's tell them what they've already. Let's repeat the same thing. I've got it. Listen, we've got the plan. We have the plan. It's ironed out now. We're going to tell them the same thing for the millionth time. That's going to do it. That will change it all. Well, yeah, but remember, Phil killed himself when wife left him and everything. So sacrifices have to be made. But this kind of thing always happens, right? Like people like lose their jobs, and we're not getting any closer to like the end of the victimization of white people. What are you, some kind of jaywalker? It's so sad. I think they all wear bibs. I think they're all bib wearing, just drooling imbeciles. The problem is that there are just so many of them. They just want to show up. And they all want to just drool. They just want to squeal like pigs at you. It's the people that you won't mention. You know what? You've got it covered. You've been mentioning them for the 3 decades, and you've got it covered. So you just keep mentioning them for 3 more decades, and then you'll be in the ground and dead. And nothing more good will have come of that in the form of stopping the victimization of white people, because that's ultimately not the goal for y'all. That's ultimately not the goal. But y'all can suffer Ye's law. Y'all can have Yades. Y'all can suffer from, you can have positive Yades tests, and you can suffer from Ye's law. And then remember they were all like, Slot, you remember they were like, no way that's Kanye West. No way he's going down. Oh, really? Exactly what I said would happen. Exactly. And he went away just like I said after he got done throwing his tantrum as the time got closer to his wife finally saying it's over. Oh, God. Okay. The people that you're not allowed to you don't mention them on this channel. Yeah, you got it covered, man. Slot says only the regulars know the double entendre of bibs. Do I have it up? Still, do I have bibs up? Because that was the great groundhog Fury, who created the actual imagery. So let me see the actual imagery of bibs. I probably have it. Would it be in there? It should be there. But unfortunately, is it? I swear to God. I swear it's the dumbest shit I've ever run into in my life. Never have I met anywhere else people so dumb as to just keep repeating the same things to the ends of time. And they suffer. It doesn't do any good. And they suffer it, but they just keep repeating it. They just keep repeating. And then you won't repeat it too. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fucking total losers. I am not seeing his bibs. That sucks. I wish I had it accessible right now. But I don't know where it could be. Unless it could be here. Well, I'm just not seeing it. I mean, I don't have my glasses on either. But at least my vision is something, my eyesight is something I can address with glasses. You can't fix total retardus. Let's repeat it again. Let's say the same thing again. And let's say it again. I'm coming across some really cool imagery. Like we have somebody taped leaflets to trees. That's really cool. Yeah, I'll have to find it for another time. Bibs. It's hidden somewhere deep in the bowels of our files. I know I've actually seen it recently. 4 political questions after Trump's second arraignment on criminal charges. This is NPR, so all things are going to be true and accurate here. Former President Donald Trump appeared somber and quiet in a Miami courtroom. I doubt it. It's somber, probably quiet. Hands clasped and leaning back in his chair at times. Come on. Speaking aloud, only to utter the words "not guilty," as the decorum requires of him. That's not NPR is writing it to be something completely different. Astoundingly, it was the second time in 3 months that Trump has been indicted. Whoa, who cares? Nobody cares. The more that they persecute him, the more people support him. Number one, what will we see from Trump and his team going forward? Trump and his team seem to find a certain comfort in chaos. Of course, just more slandering. They've been here before. Heroes aren't captured. The Access Hollywood tape. Okay, allegations. Yes, galore. Firing. FBI director. People who deserved much worse. They deserved much worse. This is handling these anti-whites with kid gloves. Most would be exhausted by continuing to be in the thick of it, but not Trump. And this is he's a senior citizen, okay? He's a senior citizen, and he's a genius. He's 77 years old, right? He's glorious. Look at him there. I mean, these people who are criticizing him, the billionaire real estate magnate, deal maker extraordinaire, etc. These people criticize and they show up and they're like, oh, well, you know what he does. And they criticize, you know what they criticize him for? They'll be happy to tell you. They'll be happy to tell you. So immediately after court, Trump took his motorcade to, I don't know, is that Versailles? Is that how that's pronounced? It's like a bunch of unnecessary letters, which makes me think it's Spanish. Have you ever been in the airport and you see, okay, like in Europe, you have a sign. It's like English. It says, this way to bathrooms. So it's like this many words. In Spanish, it's like 4 sentences. And in German, it's like 2 words. It's amazing. So I'm guessing it's Spanish. A famed Cuban American cafe in Little Havana neighborhood of Miami. And these are the Cubans? Well, those would be the white Cubans. It was joyous. He prayed with those in attendance that communism wouldn't come to the... Oh my God. We hope communism doesn't come here. What are they waiting for? They're waiting for a hammer and sickle on a flag. You cannot allow these people. If you have to pace them and then lead them and say it's anti-white communism, then do that. But if they're waiting, if they continue just to wait around for communism, and you can ask them, as I have, what does that look like? What does communism look like? And you're waiting for that to be seen, that'll never be seen. And you calling them communists, that's a name they like. Come on. 77th birthday. The man is looking glorious. Okay, it was a hint at the political power Trump retains in some conservative Latino communities, especially in Florida. You know, Central South America, I noted before the election was underway, the first election or campaign, that you see in Central South America this almost like a love for the strong man, like El Jefe is like, they like El Jefe. And I said, as a consequence, Trump it appears like a strong man to them. And so many of these voters, probably more than a typical Republican, will like him for that strong man aspect, which is a kind of a strange thing in my personal observation of Central and South America, because they have introduced so much femininity into Christianity, in my observation, so much like worship of the female, but the strong male, it's a strange thing in my estimation. I could be wrong. He's been raising money off of this using an image of himself in a phony mugshot that's been posted on social media to supporters. Good. And meanwhile, he's got big supporters dying in plane crashes. He had big financial supporters died in a plane crash during his... Now, I could be wrong, so please go back and look. I have a faint memory of when he ran the first time, supporters dying in a plane crash. When he ran for the second term, supporters dying in a plane crash. And then here you have this plane that crashed in Virginia, and supposedly, I could be wrong, check it out for yourself, but these were 6-figure donors to Donald Trump that died in that plane crash, where the F-16s went after it. Which, by the way, why did, and I mentioned this before, that plane came back from Rhode Island and flew over Washington, D.C. How can that happen if it's not for the total incompetence of anti-whiteism? You eventually, if you're going to have equality, you can't have excellence, and you eventually can't even have competence. So a plane flies over Washington, D.C. before the F-16s go after it. Why am I able to say that? I could be wrong, but why am I able to say that? Well, the reason I'm able to say that is because they say that they came from Andrews Air Force Base, or whatever it's called now. Andrews Air Force Base is east and north in Maryland of Northern Virginia. So if they flew over Northern Virginia to catch up with the Cessna, if that's single engine plane, if it was a Cessna, that meant that the plane had already passed Washington, D.C. It had already flown over Washington, D.C. Unless my geography is somehow wrong. But that's the sonic boom that rattled everything, was them catching up to it after the fact. If they took off from, here's D.C., here's Andrews Air Force Base, here's Northern Virginia, they flew over Northern Virginia to get to the... If they were flying to catch up to the Cessna before it went over DC, that sonic boom would have been further north, in my estimation. But who knows? Sloth says, so true. What you set the enemy as, you end up awaiting the imagery. You give the arbitration of your victimization to your victimizer. Yes, precisely. Very well stated. The in-house, one of our most prestigious in-house philosophers is Sloths. And I am now told that we are live again on Rumble. Thank the good Lord for that. Aliens again. I saw that written. Oops. Wrong thing. I've been having some phone issues. It's been jumping. The screen on my phone's been jumping all over the place too. I don't know what the business is. Why this is happening. But I seem to have it working now. All right. Montana Kid is with us. Great to see you. Remember, in the final little bit of time that we are here together, it's been 2 hours, flies by. Doesn't the time fly with me? It's amazing, isn't it? I'll keep an eye out for you tagging me and also for any financial gifts, if any more come in. Owning Anti-White Goblin says, I got Yades from a sexually confused frog. Yep. You could be a big Yades. Mestizo's with us. Great to see you, brother. Uh-oh, look. Rapunzel has arrived with a little smiley face. Hello, young lady. Hello there. Have you heard the conversation about the people who like to repeat themselves and repeat themselves and repeat themselves and repeat themselves and repeat themselves? To what power shall I add? How about the nth power? How about the nth power? Because they kind of like to repeat themselves. The alien. That's a conversation. I should do a roll-in about this whole alien thing. It's crazy now. It's really crazy that they have these people coming forward on, like Fox is talking about space aliens. I 100% am very confident about life in space. But suddenly the mainstream anti-white news is talking about aliens. Are we going to have forest fires, no border, and space aliens visit us during this next election? I mean, if we can't have another pandemic, right on cue. I mean, maybe. All right. Will other Republicans vying for the nomination continue to let him slide? Now, they absolutely, if they have any sense whatsoever, the other Republicans who are vying for the nomination should every step of the way side with Trump on this. Anybody who would go against him is totally idiotic, because all of the Republican voter base believes, in my opinion, I think there was a poll that came out yesterday. It was like 80%. But check it out for yourself. They believe this is a witch hunt. And they're just doing this because they're anti-white Democrats and they want to take Trump down by any means possible. There are still 6-7 months to go before the early nominating states have their say, and plenty of time for rivals to capitalize on Trump's legal woes. Most Republicans running against him have been trying to walk a fine line, criticizing the Justice Department. That's a risky strategy. Only a few candidates have been direct in their criticism. No, this is NPR. I mean, can you imagine? I always laughed when I worked on the Hill when there would be so-called Republicans who would take the advice from anti-white Democrats. They would say, well, look at what NPR is saying. Maybe we should really consider this is a risky strategy. No, they're going to tell you the worst thing, obviously. How fucking dumb are you? Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson and former New Jersey criminal and morbidly obese Governor Chris Christie have been tough critics from the start. Hutchinson and child molester said Trump should drop out. Christie, a former federal prosecutor and consumer of entire Haagen-Dazs and Dunkin' Donuts establishments, called the charges against him devastating. Now, devastating is what happens to the toilet when Christie is done with it. But they are largely in the minority of their party and have limited support, no support. Not even from those support hose they wear to keep the blood out of their lower legs. DeSantis has claimed the DOJ is double standard. Yeah, that's obviously the smart position to take. What's Nikki Haley, ambassador, pointing the finger at the DOJ, quote, prosecutorial overreach, vendetta politics. If she called it vendetta politics, that's they need to be saying it's illegitimate. That's what they need to be saying. If I were running against Trump, that's what I'd be saying. That's the only smart thing to say. You're going to have to beat Trump, you're going to have to run with him all the way to the end, and then hope with a last burst you could step in front. All of this other stuff, stupidity. Total stupid. They don't have a chance in hell, which I'm happy about. How will this play with voters? Number 3. There is a strange political divergence taking place that made possible by American information echo chambers. You mean like your anti-white echo chamber? Republicans whose main source of information comes from conservative media. And where does yours come from? Anti-white media. Swing voters view Trump as toxic, wrong. This is what they are stating this as a fact in the hope that you'll adopt it as the reality when it's just not the case. Republican strategists and pollsters say he's a main reason why the party has underperformed. What horse shit. The party not being more like Trump is the reason why it has underperformed. The party being more like it has always been is the reason why it underperforms. The electability message isn't filtered down to the rest of the party. There's this phenomenon that happens every time Trump is impeached or indicted, and I call it the rally round Trump effect, where voters sort of share his grievance. No shit. That's why I was just saying you've got to run with him. Longwell is no Trump fan, but she hosts focus groups of Republican voters. Yeah, let's just put faith in this another female, and is clear-eyed about Trump's hold on the party. In the limited polling since the indictment came out, that has been borne out. Found that double the number of likely Republican primary voters said an incident would change their view for the better. Ha! How do you like that? Another indictment? I'll side even more with Trump. That's what people are saying. And it's logical, makes sense. But like I said at the beginning of this roll-in, going free, the other side of that, and that's why I say it's kind of a risky game for the anti-white Democrats, is that they do it so that people won't focus on the Biden criminal syndicate. Ken Buck on CNN said that if Trump is convicted, I certainly won't support a convicted felon for the White House. People would vote him in from a jail cell. If the election is legitimate, he would win from a jail cell, period. And then he should pardon himself, pardon everybody else, and I could go into another day. Maybe on a Jason Goes Political, I'll go violent and say what needs to be done. Let's see. Importantly, there was no statistical change in how many thought Trump should or should not be charged. It's nearly identical after the New York charges. Half say he should be charged, a third slightly more. Go ahead and charge him more. Go ahead and have more charges. There's more and more of the population are going to side with him. How many more indictments are going to come? Finally, we have question number 4. What about those other investigations and how long could all this take? The New York case is set to go to trial in March of next year, right smack dab in the middle of the busiest part of the primary season. What a surprise. That's not, it was just by accident, I'm sure. There's no telling yet when this documents case will go to trial, but it will, at the very least, stretch out over several months. Plus, there are still 2 other criminal investigations, another federal one about Trump's role on leading up to Patriots Day, and one in Georgia looking into Trump's pressure campaign. It's all horseshit. That's what the population knows to be the case. It's on its own calendar, and Trump is going to do everything he can to slow things down. Expect Trump's team to file lots of motions with the goal of dismissing the cases. Obviously, that's sound legal practice in these matters, but also to hold the ball out, hoping he wins the presidency again and potentially take steps to shut down the cases and investigations. One thing is clear: Tuesday's arraignment isn't the end of this story. And so that's, you see right there how the anti-whites are going to craft the narrative that they are going to tell, which we won't adopt here in service to white well-being, which is that if and when Trump wins the presidency, he'll put an end to the investigations that are spurious and everyone knows, but the anti-whites are going to say that he is just this diabolical tyrant. And if he doesn't give them what they're looking for, he will be another lame duck, 4 more years of lame duckery in the White House. And then he'll go off to prison as soon as he's done with those 4 years. That will be something shocking. You know what I mean? For him to not decide to give them exactly the diabolical tyrant in chief means that he'll go to jail and die there when he's done being the president. Amazing. Well, let's see what you all have to say. And then we're going to get out of here. Thank you all for being here tonight. You are the best of mankind. We have one more over here on Cash App, and that is from Western Kind United. Financially gifting $10. Thank you so much, good brother. And he writes here with those $10 for white well-being. That's Team White Well-being to you. We are an ass-kicking team. We'll let God sort them out. Okay, looks like entropy. We didn't miss anybody there. It's blank. What about over there on D Live? Hello to anybody who is there. And we didn't miss anything there. And over here on Odyssey, we didn't miss anybody either. Although we do have one that we will read on Sunday because it was from this past Sunday. All right. I will take a look in the live chat and see if there's anything left. I see that Rapunzel is deep in conversation about squirrels. If only I had been there that day, I would have said, "Do you notice how this is not a cartoon squirrel? Do you notice that we haven't entered Toontown today? This, my dear, is a real squirrel with real teeth and real snaggy claws," as she likes to put it. Merely throw the food in the animal's direction. Do not try to lay your hand. If it looks like the squirrel from Bambi, has those bright colors and the giant eyes, and is clearly a cartoon, then please pet away. But the real ones, no. A lifelong trauma. Oh my God, she said, all the squirrel propaganda. So tragic what Disney has done to hide the reality of the squirrel. Reptile says, cooking up custom NWG pendant for a newcomer as we speak. Oh, that's exciting. Gave him a copy of Go Free, and he's spreading it to his family. Now that is fantastic. God bless you, brother. That is epic. I'm going to give you, let's give this man some applause. This is how it's done. Spreading white positivity, reaching out with his intellect, his love, his labor, and his creative industry / genius to another one of our people to share the white positivity of the Go Free method. God bless you, man. Your whole family, your wife, everybody. Great people. That's Reptile. I salute you, brother. Thank you for that. Robert Hartley is here, says aliens again. It's all aliens. It's all the, we know that. It's all the aliens. You laugh about that, but as sort of zany as Rapunzel and the squirrels and the people she has recruited to name the squirrel the actual furry animal. For years, I had to listen to people who would show up at meetings. There would be these meetings sometimes that would be set up by, I'm not going to give the actual names of the groups, but they would kind of bring people from a couple different types of groups. And these folks that would otherwise look normal, they would come in and they would give like a little speech about reptiles, like humanoid. And I left more than once because I was like, this is just, they're not going to be able to hear anything real. They're just swept up in just total fantasy for years. It was that soccer player responsible for that. Ike. Nuts. And there were other things too. Not quite that crazy, but pretty damn crazy. Elaine Sabatino says here, great Saul is here. Hello. She says monkeypox backfired on them as soon as children and pets started coming down with it, Jason. Well, you know, I did that short where a couple of weeks back where, who is it? Is it the CDC? Was saying, and please check this out for yourself because I don't have the tab open in front of me right now. It was, who was reporting it? Was it the New York, what newspaper? It was establishment newspaper. Or was it like NBC? No, it was like NBC. And they were reporting on the CDC. So go look it up for yourselves. But they were saying that evidence now suggests that it's not mere contact that transmits monkeypox, but it's actual sexual contact. Period. And then thinking people said, wait, what now? Because we had all these other cases. So what was happening then? Thank you all for celebrating the great reptile. All right. That looks like it's about it. And we will be back. I'm sure I'll do another short or whatever this week. We'll see. And then, of course, on Sunday, we will be back. But keep an eye out. Make sure you're staying active for white well-being. Make sure you're sharing and spreading white positivity. Make sure you're sharing the clips that No White Guilt Clips is making. His Twitter channel is growing, our account. Let's make it go to the moon. And let's keep moving, folks, because every day the anti-whites, just like I said at the beginning of this decade, if you remember, that over the course of this decade, the anti-whites will be getting stronger and stronger. And we have to mirror that. We will as well be getting stronger and stronger. And that we will not see an increase of our growth in a diminution of theirs. That's not how it's going to work. It's going to be parallel. That's the only way we're going to be able to reclaim our destiny. So put it in your mind, when you put the human mind to a task and you have a goal and you're positive about how do I get there? How can we do this? Instead of always saying, here's my crutch, and that's why we can't. Instead, put in your mind that this can be done. How can it be done? How can we reach enough people with a lexicon? How can we get the word out? How can we become popular? How can we get that content creator with 5 million, with 10 million people to start using concepts? How can we get him or her to interview No White Guilt so that many more people will be introduced to the good work that we're doing here? Put that question to your mind regularly. Let your mind work it out. Let your mind marinate the question, and it will begin giving you answers. As always, I love you all. Roll out.